Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Well, a couple days ago, I was thinking that my recording time was done. I decided to lie down and just scroll through the news. And I came across the news article about Donald Allen. And I immediately jumped out of bed, read the article, read 3 other ones, and made an upload stating that the news and the powers that be are doing another cover-up. Well, within just the last year and a half, there has been 5. And I have proof today that those 5 are all Dogman or cryptid-related, more or less Dogman. And the government and news agencies know what the hell is going on and do not want to talk about it. Before we get into today's upload, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that, they just don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything that you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. Now, everyone, I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on to solving these unsolved animal attacks on human beings. Shall we? Now, one of the first attacks that I covered a while back was, of course, Brenda Hamilton, the 77-year-old teacher who was attacked by an unknown animal in Pantego, North Carolina. Now, that happened in February of 2019, February 15th to be exact. There was a ton of news articles. And then in May, almost 3 months, autopsy results released in animal attack, death of elderly Beaufort County woman. WITN has obtained a copy of the autopsy results of Brenda Hamilton, a veteran school teacher who was killed by an unknown canine. It was just last week that Beaufort County deputies completed their investigation into Pantego woman's death and said they were unable to determine what kind of canine attacked her. WITN has chosen not to describe Hamilton's injuries in graphic detail, but the 77-year-old woman sadly suffered numerous extensive injuries all over her body. Hamilton was attacked back in February 15th while walking on Indian Run Road outside of Pantego. Deputies said Hamilton was found in a ditch submerged up to her shoulders in water. Neighbors, awakened by their barking dogs, found them near Hamilton and alerted authorities. Hamilton was taken to the hospital unresponsive and died 3 days later on February 18th. The autopsy report states that Hamilton's husband said she walked every morning around 5 a.m. with a group of local dogs. 3 months after that, a news article was released August 6th. Something bit and clawed North Carolina teacher to death 6 months ago. Nobody knows what it was. It's been 6 months since Brenda Hamilton was attacked while walking her dogs in Beaufort County, and deputies have yet to figure out what exactly is to blame for her killing. The haunting case of 77-year-old schoolteacher mauled to death by an unknown animal in coastal North Carolina is being taken nationwide in search for answers. It's been 6 months since Brenda Hamilton was attacked while walking her dogs in Beaufort County, and deputies yet have figured out exactly what is to blame. Deputies have speculated it could have been a coyote, wolf, or even wild dogs, but DNA evidence has concluded only that the attacker was a canine in nature, the sheriff's office said in a press release. Beaufort County Commission voted Monday to launch a committee in search of definitive answers with the intention of having national experts weigh in. The vote was unanimous and included money to pay consultants. There is a concern in the community that because this attack was from unknown sources, that it could happen again, Commissioner Hood Richardson told WITN. As a matter of fact, safety, we need to bring this mystery to some kind of conclusion. And shortly thereafter, a petition was drafted, and she was mauled to death, and government agencies won't say what happened. We want answers. That's what the petition, the title of that petition states. And I agree, because in a time of technology where we can press a button on our phones and say, hey Siri, hey Bixby, tell me this, tell me that. Ironically enough, the powers that be can't tell us what took this poor woman from her family, a woman who loved life and did nothing wrong. So this is the next article along with the petition. The sun rose on Friday, February 15th, 2019, and Mrs. Hamilton was there to greet it. But her walk went horribly wrong. She was attacked and partially consumed alive by some sort of animal. Neighbors found her in a ditch with a freshly killed rodent nearby. 3 days later, she sadly succumbed to her injuries. Since that time, no definitive information has been released concerning what animal was responsible for her death, and the investigation was closed. Those in the community, especially her family and school, believe there is something that's not being said, and we want answers. This is a crisis situation, therefore, state, federal, and local officials should act accordingly. Public meetings in local areas be held within 30 days and publicized according to sunshine laws to allow citizens to voice concerns about their safety. Ask questions and offer information on the case. Full disclosure of all parties involved in the investigation, including state and federal agencies, first responders, medical examiners, those who collected DNA evidence, and all others involved. All agencies involved and identified in the investigation be represented at local meetings and able to answer questions. Full disclosure of laboratory name and technician that performed the DNA testing. Full disclosure of physical DNA test results. Warnings be posted to indicate danger. Right after Mrs. Hamilton passed away, the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office confirmed that DNA testing showed the animal was canine. But the further testing needed to be done. 2 dogs from the neighborhood, whom Miss Hamilton was familiar with, were quarantined, but released after DNA testing. Every dog in the vicinity was tested, but all cleared. The family waited patiently to hear more. Finally, May 2nd, the local news station reported the investigation had been closed. In a small town where families are on a first-name basis with law enforcement, seeing this news on TV, especially with no answers, hurt all the more. This less than stellar investigation of a horrific event in a small eastern North Carolina town was left with questions. Here are some of those questions that were released by the residents. Why was the investigation so short-lived? Why were officials so quick to dismiss the magnitude a sweet lady got mauled and killed? Why was there no attack animal named? Why were local people not involved, and why were their accounts of investigators not taken into consideration? Why is there a widely accepted public belief that the U.S. FWS Red Wolf introduction has a lot to do with this tragedy? What kind of animal killed Mrs. Hamilton? Is it safe to take a walk? Can our kids go out and play? Can we trust our government to protect us? We, the people, are not satisfied with the results of the investigation and demand that the following steps be taken. Not only are we saddened by the horrible death of Mrs. Brenda Hamilton, we are also in fear of any neighbors that walk down our country roads. It is our hope as a Christian community that the investigation has conducted properly, thoroughly, professionally, and ethically by all involved. However, we are weary of many circumstances surrounding this horrible incident and the manner in which it was investigated. From the Hamilton family and the surrounding communities, we approach this situation with an open mind. Mrs. Hamilton was a true pillar of her community. There are tons of photo albums to prove it as well. Her life's work touched countless lives because she stood for and lived for what she believed in: her faith, her family, her community, and her Pungo Raiders. Out of all due respect, please give us some answers. Now, interestingly enough, the case has just remained unopened and hush-hushed. The formal document that I just read was very well written. It expressed concerns of all the residents in that community. Unanswered questions. The one that stuck out is our government capable of protecting us? Well, they are, but do they want to? I don't think so. I really don't. Because if they did, these questions would be answered. And these things wouldn't be running around taking innocent lives like Mrs. Brenda Hamilton. The next case that we got hit with in the news was the tragic death of 13-year-old boy Corey Godsey. February 26, 2020. Investigators still don't know for sure what kind of animal or animals attacked and killed a Knott County boy last week. While police have released the victim's name, he is identified as 13-year-old Corey Godsey in a GoFundMe page for his funeral. Detectives with the Kentucky State Police Post 13 in Hazard and the Kentucky State Medical Examiner are investigating the death. Troopers responded to a residence on Montgomery Creek Road in Emelina just after a 911 call was received shortly after 6 p.m. on February 18th, reporting a possible animal attack on a child. Officers and other personnel with Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, Knott County Sheriff's Office, Lifeguard Ambulance, and Ball Creek Fire and Rescue also responded to the scene. Now, before I go any further on this, where I live in upstate New York, and I might be wrong, actually I don't think I'm wrong because I know, when there has been a dog attack because some guy has a dog that really has not been taken care of and is abused, gets off his leash, probably escapes out of the garage that he's been stuck in for days on end, and bites somebody. The responding people are the police department and the dog warden or animal control officer who works with the police department. I live in the Adirondacks, which is the largest state park in the country. You can Google it. And we have a lot of NCON officers around where I live, and they don't respond to an animal attack. So why would the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife respond, as well as the state police, as well as the sheriff? Well, because they knew something else attacked this poor boy than a friggin' dog. Here's the rest of the article. Upon arrival, troops and first responders were led up a mountainside behind the residence where they located Godsey, who appeared to be fatally wounded. Knott County Coroner Corey Watson pronounced the victim dead and suspected injuries associated with an animal attack. Well, you know, when you find an innocent person, a poor child, or a poor old lady that obviously has been clawed and bit, what are you going to say? An animal attacked him. Of course! An autopsy was performed at the State Medical Examiner's Office in Frankfort, February 19th. The cause of death was initially determined to be from injuries consistent with an animal attack, though a specific animal identification was not determined. Additional information and details will be released when available. M. Trooper Jody Sims, a spokesman for Hazard KSP Post, said lab results are expected later this week and should help determine the species of the animal or animals involved. Detective Robert Dials of KSP Post 13 is leading the investigation. A friend and extended family member of the boy set up a GoFundMe asking for help to help with the parents pay for the funeral. The GoFundMe page was set up by Peggy Coach of Vest, who says her oldest son is a brother to Corey. The page, which was set out to raise $2,000, raised $9,447 as of yesterday, and had stopped accepting new donations. Corey Joseph Godsey, 13, of Emelina, died Tuesday, February 18th, near his home at Emelina. He was born in Lexington on November 23rd of 2006 to Molly Naper and Gary Wayne Godsey. In addition to his parents, he is survived by three brothers, Zachary, Jordan, and Gavin, a sister, Hannah, his maternal grandmother, Molly Noble, grandfather, Denzel Naper, his parental grandparent, Silas Goodsey, and uncle, Denzel Naper Jr. Funeral services were held at Hindman Funeral Services on Sunday, February 23rd. Burial was in Hicks Combs. This poor kid. Update. August 13th, 2020. After 6 months of investigating, Kentucky State Police have determined the cause of death of 13-year-old Corey Godsey, a teenager, was found dead on February 18th in a suspected animal attack. His body was located 1,500 feet up a hillside behind the residency. With the assistance of Fish and Game Wildlife, KSP detectives utilized wildlife camera to locate multiple dogs on an old mine site near the area where Godsey was found. Okay, guys, now this is where it gets really questionable for me, because this is the last news article that you can find. This is the remaining of the article, but it's clearly a cover-up, because after the last statement where they said detectives utilized wildlife cameras to locate multiple dogs on an old mine site, this is the next 4 paragraphs. The dogs were transported to Kentucky River Animal Shelter in Hazard, where DNA samples were collected. DNA samples were compared to evidence located on the victim. The lab results showed that specimens from several of the dogs matched those found on the victim. But this is where it's questionable. Authorities stated they did not know the types of dogs involved, reports the troublesome Crete Times. Other news outlets are calling them wild dogs. In other words, the dogs likely do not have owners. Ownerless dogs involved in fatal attacks. Many occur on Indian reservations. In those few cases, it is more likely the dogs were owned and were roaming without collars. The limited media coverage in those cases make it impossible to be sure. In the 2 non-reservation attacks involved in stray dogs, one involved multiple people feeding the dogs, and the other was a pit bull in Detroit, thought to be stray, abandoned by its owner. A stray dog is not a feral dog. A stray dog is born and kept by humans and is either roaming at large or has been abandoned by its owner. A feral dog is a domestic dog born to roaming dogs outside of any human care or contact. A feral dog can be first generation, second, etc., but a feral dog has never kept or owned by a human. A wild dog and a feral dog are not interchangeable. A wild dog, see African wild dog, is an individual of species that has never been domesticated. There are behavioral differences. Owned dogs and stray dogs have inflicted virtually all. If not all fatal attacks in the U.S., a stray will more easily make contact with a human in a good or bad way depending on its experience with humans. A feral dog will be extremely shy of humans, as dogs tend to be, of anything they weren't exposed to their 6 months of lives. According to animal behaviorist Alexandra Sonomova, the investigation into Goodstee's death remains ongoing. Well, the last sentence says the investigation into Goodstee's death is ongoing, but 4 paragraphs above that, they said that they had matching DNA. But in that same paragraph, they said that the authorities stated they didn't know what type of dog was involved. That makes no sense. This news article is just rubbish. Rubbish with filler words, pretty much toilet paper. And once again, this poor boy's life is just brushed off by the government, and just no one cares. Well, people care. I care. His family cares. You care. But the powers that be in the news media, they don't care. Because if a news anchor cared, he wouldn't just report the story. That MFer would be out there looking to report the true story. And that's what news agencies used to be a long time ago, I thought, growing up. But apparently everything I thought and you thought was all wrong, because monsters do exist. Anyway, sorry. On to the next one. The next one makes absolutely no sense and was brushed away so quickly without even an autopsy report given to the public. Doctor found dead in ditch, likely killed by pack of wild dogs. Well, wild dogs, in the article we just read here a few minutes ago, or a few seconds ago, people, wild dogs are from Africa. We don't have wild dogs in America. But because the media said we do, we do. I just sounded like Tucker Carlson there. Holy shit. Authorities in Lyons, Georgia, say a pack of roaming wild dogs likely mauled a local doctor to death. The body of Dr. Nancy Shaw was discovered in a ditch around 3 a.m. on May 7th, according to the Associated Press. Lyons police said an officer spotted Shaw's car pulled over on the side of the road, still running and the door wide open. The officer got out of the patrol car to investigate and found a female that was deceased in the ditch. Lyons Police Department Chief Wesley Walker told local station WTOC. She was a caring person. She was a friend of ours, Walker said. When I realized who it was devastating. Autopsy results confirm that Shaw, a noted pet lover and doctor of internal medicine at Meadows Regional Medical Center, was killed by animals. That's all we get. That's all we get. Because, honestly, here's the next one, and there's no updates. Lyons, Georgia. Georgia doctor found dead in a ditch Thursday morning. Authorities believe she was killed by a pack of wild dogs. Anyway, they all say the same thing on that case for some reason. But the gist of the matter was she was found in a ditch across the street from where her car was parked, door open, car running. Bottom line, if you saw a pack of wild dogs running at your car, are you going to get out and say, "Hey, puppy, got some milk bones for you"? No, something else happened. Something very, very similar to what I believe happened, or almost happened, to the ambulance that was almost taken out in Connecticut. I think what happened in this case was the dog, or Dogman, was on the side of the road, probably on all fours, looking sad, looking hurt. She may have pulled over, or it may have blocked her way. Something yoked her out of that car and brought her to the ditch where she was found and dead. And it's just funny because out of the 2 cases I just covered, out of the 3 cases I just covered, 2 were found in a ditch. 1 was found 1,500 feet up a frickin' mountainside. 1,500 feet. I don't know. I have friends that have pit bulls, and I don't see them dragging my daughter, who's 13, up a cliff, or a mountainside, 1,500 feet. I mean, because mountainsides, they are cliff-like sometimes. I mean, it does take a little bit to hike up a little mountainside, no matter how good of a hiker you are. On to the next one. This one is exactly a year ago, or almost a year ago. Tuesday, the 26th of November, 2019. Christine Marie Rollins, 59, attacked outside of a home in Anahuac, or however you say the name. Sorry, I don't live there, so I don't know how to pronounce the name correctly. In one of the worst cases I have ever seen, county sheriff says. A 59-year-old Texan woman has died after being assaulted by feral hog in what the county sheriff described as one of the worst cases I've ever seen. Christine Marie Rollins, 59, healthcare worker, arrived to look after an 84-year-old patient who she had been caring for almost 2 years when she was attacked in the early hours of Sunday. Sheriff Brian Hawthorne said he would not go into the details of the incident, but said he was disturbed by the attack. In a statement, he said, "This is an unbelievably tragic and very rare incident. In my 35 years, I will tell you it's one of the worst things I have ever seen." Hawthorne said that bites and bruises of varying sizes made it clear that multiple animals were involved in the attack. He said that the pigs had taken over some of the pasture and woods of the family land. Well, it makes no sense. I covered this. I've covered all of these. And it just, you get out of your car, you're heading up to this family's home that you've worked for 2 years, and it's just, it's just dawn. The sun's coming up. You hear or see feral pig running. Your first thought might be, can I make it to the house? But then you're like, can I make it in my car? Well, if you can't, just jump on the hood. Jump on the hood, jump to the roof. You're safe. Feral hog, they're fat. Well, not fat. They're very slender, very, not slender, but muscular, wild animals. But they're not going to jump on the car and get you. So this one doesn't make any sense. Multiple bruising and biting. Rollins died outside of a home near Houston with multiple injuries to her body. An autopsy said she had died of bleeding to death due to feral hog assault. Hawthorne said officials had immediately believed the cause of death to be an animal attack, but it was not something we could even come close to announcing until we had the cause of death. And then there's just, there's other crap involved in this case, that they actually looked at the people's dogs. They questioned the person's dog because apparently one of the dogs had bit her in the hand or something. There was possible lawsuit, but it didn't come to anything. But even then, you've worked there 2 years. It's just, if a sheriff of 35 years is saying this is the most horrific sight I have ever seen, well, he's seen some shit in his day, I bet ya. So this poor woman was tore up. It makes no... And yeah, people a long time ago or rumored they'd throw their dead bodies in with a bunch of pigs and to be gone in a couple of hours. Yeah, that happens. But this woman was alive. She wasn't dead. I mean, I've been in a pig pen multiple times with big boar, sows with babies. I've seen pigs pissed, and it's scary. But that makes no sense. That case makes no sense. And it's tragic. It's tragic that the powers that be use the media to protect themselves. And that's why some news anchors and, media people, they make good money. I mean, they don't get $50,000 a year. It's like, between $3 million to a couple $100,000 a year to lie to us. That's... And then we have the last case of poor Donald Allen. Once again, wild dogs fatally maul Florida man. Wild dogs. Well, we don't have wild dogs in America because 3 or 4 articles ago I just read to you, wild dogs are African dogs. We don't have African dogs here. Well, in zoos. So what, did a couple of wild dogs get out and maul this poor gentleman? I don't think so. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office says the 65-year-old Donald Allen was found along the road Wednesday, not far from the Alabama state line. The Tallahassee Democrat reports. The Sheriff's Office says Allen was walking on the road when a pack attacked him. The Sheriff's Office said animal control are setting traps in the area to hope catching these dogs. Interestingly enough, the road that this guy was walking down is literally a 3-hour car ride from the Alabama state line. And if Donald Allen was going to walk it, he'd be there in 54 hours. Google it. Wild dogs. When are we going to know the answers, guys? I really think it's time that, I think that we need to formulate a plan. What we need to do is we need to figure out how to write this down, because I believe it's something like 450,000 signatures or whatever. But we can get that. We can get that to pass along so we can get answers. We're not asking for much. We're just asking for answers. That's all we want. I want to know that my daughter's going to be safe if she decides to go for a walk. If I'm going to be safe, if you guys are going to be safe, if my trolls are going to be safe, I don't even want them to get hurt. You know, I want to make sure that we are safe. And that when these attacks happen, that we're not lied to. I mean, it makes no sense to hide something like this from us. Let us know what we have to be careful of, or be afraid of, or be weary of while we're in the woods. Let us know. Let us know. Because, yeah, we'll still use your state campgrounds and your federal wildlife refuges, and we'll still give you our money to go visit these. As long as we know, then it's fair. I mean, fair is fair, right? You're taking our money, so we should know. But we never will. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's update and upload. Sorry for the rambling. Sorry for the anger. It's baffling to me. And I know it's baffling to you guys because it's not fair. It's not right. We are, as Americans, as free, tax-paying Americans, we are entitled to know what can harm us. We have that right. Apparently, only the powers that be do. That just shows where we are on that ladder. Have a good night, guys. Really quick, as I was ending that, interestingly enough, the case of Christine Rollins. Did you realize the Center of Disease Control and Prevention were involved in that as well? A hog attack expert was consulted. The family doesn't believe that it was an attack. This is the, this makes no sense. Here we go. At 7:43, she was found 6 feet from her Chrysler and 5 feet from the front of the home. She was 5'1" and weighed 131. The car hood was still warm. She was found on her back. She had been dragged feet first. Her pants and shoes were off. Her calves looked eaten. The dogs barked, exhibited territorial aggression, and did not back down when commanded. One look, it had blood on its snout. Well, obviously, I believe what happened is these dogs were protecting their area when they were allowed to be outside. Probably ran up to the woman, smelled her. They knew who she was. When dogs smell, they tend to touch with their nose, so. And then, this is interesting right here. The autopsy report completed February 4th listed the cause of death as bleeding from feral hog assault. Pathologist Celie Rivers of Forensic Medical Management Services of Texas described punctures 3 inches deep. 3 inches deep. That's awful big punctures for a dog, a wild dog, or a wild hog, or a domesticated dog. Whatever bullshit they feed us. 3 inches is deep. Terrible liars. Terrible. Now I'm ending it. Sorry, guys. Have a good night.